What makes an original anime amazing? Is it the originality to it? Is it something that we've never seen before, finally done, and you're just blown away by its creativity? Or is it by taking something we have seen before into that territory we've always wished, why don't you go into that direction, but never thought it was ever going to happen? For me, it's all of the above. Original anime are always my favorite things to look forward to in any new anime season, because when I see that original tag, whether it's a cool poster image, a fun name, a trailer, a description, it just feels like the fun part about original anime is that they're gonna end. Because most anime are done so as a promotional material for its source material, whether that's a manga, a light novel, a visual novel, whatever it is, it's promotion. So you might get 1 or 2 seasons, but very rarely are you going to get an ending. Which is why I always say anime original endings aren't something to really be feared, because most likely they were never going to give you a complete adaptation to begin with. Original anime, though, can tell something whatever they want to tell. As long as it's been funded for at least 12 episodes, most likely they're going to be able to tell a pretty good story. Deca Dence was one of my most anticipated anime going into the summer 2020 season. It's something that just screamed me. It felt interesting. I thought, honestly, based on the description, the trailer, everything that I saw, it was going to be something very much like something that kind of catches my eye, such as Attack on Titan, something where humanity was kind of pushed to the point of no return and now it's time to fight back. And if you watch episode 1 of Deca Dence, that's what you get. You get this giant mobile fortress that fight these Gatto, these alien-like creatures where you harvest their blood and they create this gravity bubble and they use this gear to float around, they shoot these spikes, and it's cool. It's a visual trip. It just feels like, okay, narratively we've seen something similar, but I mean, how many times have we seen a giant-ass fortress punch a giant-ass beast in the face? Not very often. How many times do you harvest the blood from these creatures to then pour into the streets to fuel your giant mobile fortress as everyone lives behind these walls? Unlike shows such as Attack on Titan, the walls are mobile, so it actually keeps you in a more safe and more secure fashion, so people aren't scared of wanting to go outside. No, they want to stay inside because they have an entire city that's always constantly moving and protected. Deca Dence had just a lot of interesting ideas going for us. Things we've seen, some things that we haven't seen, and I was content with that, and I wasn't going to be disappointed. And then by the second episode, they toss what you expect out the window and say, hey, we're going to live up to our original tag, and we're going to mess with your brain. Deca Dence threw one of the best twists I have seen since Madoka Magica, and while I won't go into specifics for Madoka Magica's twist, it's something that caught the anime community by storm. This one did for me as well, and I knew from the minute I saw these robot-looking characters after seeing normal anime animation and art design that it was going to ruffle some feathers, that a lot of people would start dropping it, ripping into it, because why are we looking at this cute chibi aesthetic when we were battling big monsters and we were a tough anime? We were going to figure out why Natsume's father ended up dead, and in return we start this episode and we see all these robots, and it's like, what is it, a game? Is it virtual reality? Is what we're seeing not actually real? Because of that, each episode after continued to shock and awe me and do something different with each and every story progression. This is a show that does require patience. It's something that if you don't like change, you're going to hate this. And it is a very drastic shift. It is very just like, it comes abruptly. There's a few small points in the first episode, like the fact that Natsume's father discovers a robot body and stuff like that, but you don't expect walking into the second episode that is going to look like this. Honestly, when I first watched this episode weekly, I was like, I'm on the wrong anime. There's no way. Or Funimation, is playing the wrong show. This isn't Deca Dence. It was a weird experience. It was just so weird seeing something that, like, you can start making theories, but you're just like, are you disappointed? Are you bummed out that seemingly what you were going to watch isn't what you assume? And it's a very bold choice to show it that early in the show. I was actually surprised they did show it so early, because generally a show will wait till its third or fourth episode to really drop some information like this on you, or even the end of the show, which honestly, if you were to ask most people how they would have wrote this before seeing how it concluded, they probably would have said I probably would have written it to be a reveal near the end of the show or something like that. But what's interesting about Deca Dence is because it shows it so early, your expectations of what you think anime is and what it can be in 2020 is tossed out the window in favor of just saying, just because you think you know what to expect because you thought it was going to be an Attack on Titan clone, it's not. This is Deca Dence, and by the end of its 12th episode, I was so satisfied that I didn't want to see anymore. The reason the boldness works so well is because it feels like it's planned and structured from day one. The reason it needed to be established at episode 2 that Kaburagi, this man that we thought was just a normal human, seemingly is controlling a robotic-like body like an avatar, as pretty much all cybernetic beings in this world, playing this world like a game, as the few humans left are oblivious to what's happening around them. The reason it had to happen so early, because without that connection early on, all the emotional developments from Kaburagi's side would be very hard to empathize with, because you wouldn't have any connection to his actual desire. But by showing us this bold and creative choice of saying, yeah, visually, it's distracting. Why are we looking at this almost chibi aesthetic? But without that distraction, it would be very hard to differentiate between what we're seeing as the humans are versus these almost cybernetic beings. And it's a very risky choice, and one that I don't think would ever happen unless you have a production committee that trusts in the staff behind this. Because to say that you are going to risk alienating so many people so early on, if it's at episode 9, they're probably not as worried because they've already had almost 3/4 of their anime aired, so it doesn't matter if a few people jump off the ship. But by episode 2, you risk everyone saying, this is not what I signed up for. I don't like looking at this. The number of people I saw saying that, it's an art style I don't like, it's not interesting, it's childish. Why would we want to look at something that felt so mature and bold? Finally, we're out of high school. Finally, we're out of this cliche setting, and now you're going cute robot edition. Why? But from day one of seeing the twist, I knew, stick with it. The boldness, the creative choice of making them look almost robotic is so they don't feel human, so that they're distracting, that you know this is like an alien, this is a robot, this is not what Natsume's race is a part of. And because they went so bold and distinct, they were able to play around with multiple styles and perspectives and have us always understand what we were seeing, why we were seeing it, so as the building blocks continue, you know exactly what we're witnessing. So many times when stories have an idea like Deca Dence, okay, we're gonna twist that Kaburagi is actually a robotic being. He's actually not Natsume's race. He isn't a normal human. That would come near the end because the author, and I'm saying this as myself included, would generally only have one big idea that would really shock the viewers. Deca Dence pulls it at episode 2, and honestly, I thought they were gonna jump the shark, because if you shock us like this, how can you continue to shock us? But with each episode, they continue to throw my expectations out the window, not in major ways, sometimes they did, but for the most part, it was, okay, clearly Kaburagi's gonna respond like this, or clearly this is the end result, and every time I assumed I knew what was going to happen, they tossed it out the window, and every time, and this is an exaggeration, every single episode since episode 2, I was like, this is how it's going to happen, this is how it has to happen, because that's going to be the most interesting for me. The anime went in a different path, sometimes slightly, sometimes majorly, and I was like, that's not what I expected, that's not what I thought I wanted, but clearly that's what was best for the show. This is a story with so much structure and just planned preparation that I would change literally nothing about this show. The story beats, the progression, the downtime slice of life, the comedy moments, the stunning action, everything about this show completely gripped me. Rather than just going for the typical, okay, end of the world, we're gonna have Natsume rise to the occasion, save the day, maybe Kaburagi will die by the end. Hell, I thought maybe they'd pull a twist where Natsume was going to die and Kaburagi would find his resolve to get back on the battlefield. I figured, like, that's what you expect with anime. And so many people were telling me there's no way Natsume could die, because that's going too far. And then when you really look at what the show went for, Natsume dying would have been the most tame thing in this show for how many twists and turns it decided to pull along the way. The constant evolution of action and just the idea that it's a system so designed that it doesn't matter if humans die or bodies die because they can just make new avatars and things like this, and just what's the point of having an almost game-like creation? What do you gain out of this such a fake system? To be able to ask so many questions and to know that I was going to get so many answers in return, it felt like this was a show that wanted to say, we want to really stick out. Clearly, we're not going to be the biggest show of the season. We have many heavy hitters. Years down the line, this is going to be a show that's going to garnish a cult following, and I think it will. This is a show that just screams Brandon. It's original. It fits the norm and the criteria of what I love about anime, the epic battles, the creative alien-like fights, cool gear that the humans or cybernetic beings use, and just a giant mobile fortress with a fist that punches aliens. It's cool, it's badass, but the thing that gets me is how the story isn't linear. While you can predict things like a drunken robot would probably betray you and then probably give his life because he realized he was being manipulated by a scummy, evil-looking robot, things like that are traditional and predictable, and obviously you know that's gonna happen. happen. But the moments between Kaburagi and Nasmi and every step they take to either expose, like, how is he going to deal with the idea that he has to tell her that he's in a new body after his old one got killed. How do you deal with that? Is he just going to drop the information, like what's going on? And just every step after that, it just continues to find new ways to evolve. When they just seemingly kill characters off, you think to yourself, okay, well, maybe they can log into a new body. Okay, now he's seemingly being recycled. Like, where do you constantly go? And it always has you asking questions, and it wants you to ask questions. It's a show that wants you to consume this, not really in a binge, but every couple of episodes, because by having those questions, it makes your mind race. So when you see the reveals, you appreciate them all the more. Because if you just binge this in one lump sum, which I will do in the future again for sure, but it's something that your initial experience, you want to have those thoughts, those questions, those concerns. So when you see the answers, you're like, that's way better than what my dumb brain could have assumed could ever happen. And in doing so, it's just simply remarkable. Deca Dence, just the more I think about, the more I foam at the mouth and just want to scream from the rooftop, please watch this. It's one of the most creative, it's one of the most distinct, visually impressive. I mean, just the way they're able to blend 3D with 2D. Hell, the final monster is just this giant 3D blob that blended in so well that with the narrative that they were going for with how it was created and the mutations that occurred, you needed it to have look gross and disgusting, but even just when you're in the standard Gato fights, it's interesting, it's distinct. You can't compare them to the almost alien-like beings you fight in other shows like this. It's so great to see how they're constantly able to play with like 3 art styles, it felt like. The Gato were one, the robots were one, and the general Deca Dence presentation was another, yet they all blended so seamless. And even when you see a robot with a human on screen, you're like, how did you blend these two? But by getting you used to the different perspectives, by the time they fully merge, you just are like, that's how it has to go. Even when they bring back characters seemingly, it doesn't feel like they're abandoning what makes the ending great, like Kaburagi's noble sacrifice by having backups of cybernetic beings before the final battle. It kind of just makes sense and brings a smile to your face because it feels like years later, after having to deal with a sacrifice, seemingly a death, you get a nice reunion and a girl who lost her father gets a new one, obviously not replacing the old father, but they kind of had like a father-daughter scene together. It felt like they were really building this bond, and to just end off on such a peaceful and satisfying note, but still making it feel like sacrifices and hardships happened while leaving off the Deca Dence formula for more exploration for sure, which the director have already said that maybe in other mediums he would. It just feels so satisfying to see something that just screams uniqueness and something that deserves all the praise and rewards that it could possibly get. I knew from even before the season started it wasn't going to be the most popular show, but it's something that I wanted to see succeed in every possible way. And that's why I just hope the people who even enjoyed it slightly will recommend it, because it's a show that needs more love and praise. Visually, it is stunning. The 3D, the 2D, the fight scenes, the general character designs. Just look at the character designs. They don't scream generic. They're unique and distinct. Visually, it's one of the most distinct shows of the season because, I mean, how many times do you see an anime blend this many presentation styles and have it stick its landing? It may distract you when you first notice it, but by the time you finish the show, you respect that it was different because it makes you clearly observe what's happening on screen with the different stories and perspectives. Every single question that I want answered was answered. I was able to predict almost 0 ways that this show was going to flow, but that was never a disappointment. It was clearly an author, a writer, a director who knew better than me with their story and said, just because the viewer's expectations will be this, I'm going to do what I want. And because of it, we got one of the most original anime that has ever existed, in my honest opinion. It plays with formulas and traits that we do expect, but it takes it into territory I don't think many studios would be willing to take it in because it's so risky and bold, but goddamn, does Studio Nut and just everyone involved deliver something that screams quality, a complete package that you don't need more. You can leave it off here and be satisfied. While yes, before the time skip, I would have liked to see a little more building up to how they got to the very final point of this anime, I would have liked to see an episode dedicated to that. Maybe you can have an OVA exploring that. But besides that, 0 complaints. That's not me ignoring faults that people have brought up. That's me loving everything about this show. Deca Dence is something I'm going to continue to think about for so long, and I just want to get some thoughts out here on it because it's such a remarkable show to me and one that I'm going to keep rewatching for many years to come. And I hope more people spread the word on why you need to watch one of 2020's most underrated and underappreciated shows, because this was a remarkable and creative experience for sure. Let me know your thoughts and feelings though down below. You'll love it, did you hate it? If you liked the video, of course, leave a like to show your support and hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here. If you enjoyed what you see, you can also head on over to my Patreon where you can check out videos such as these early before they go up to the public. As well, I also offer textual thumbnail art if that's something that interests you as well. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.